During negotiations in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, the Ukrainian delegation presented three key initiatives to the United States: silence in the sky, silence at sea, and real measures to establish trust. The US side proposed a complete 30-day ceasefire, prohibiting not only missile attacks and naval combat, but also halting hostilities along the entire front line.
Ukraine expressed readiness to accept the US proposal to enact an immediate interim 30-day ceasefire, which can be extended by mutual agreement of the parties and which is subject to acceptance and concurrent implementation by the Russian Federation. The United States will communicate to Russia that Russian reciprocity is the key to achieving peace. From the joint statement of Ukrainian and American delegations following their meeting in Jeddah.
This was the first constructive meeting between the Ukrainian and American delegations, stated President Volodymyr Zelenskyy after the negotiations. According to him, if the 30-day ceasefire is achieved, Kyiv will use this period to engage with its partners on security guarantees for Ukraine.
Про гарантії безпеки ми будемо говорити.
We will discuss security guarantees in more detail if the 30-day ceasefire holds. These 30 days are allocated precisely to put everything on paper. We have our own proposals, but we need to finalize and document agreed upon steps with our allies. Steps that will outline the security guarantees Ukraine will have after this war ends.
Ukraine's Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha clarified that a temporary ceasefire in Russia's war against Ukraine does not imply freezing the conflict. He emphasized that Ukrainian defense forces will continue their military operations, since the ceasefire will only take effect if Russia agrees and adheres to it.
Why is this kind of temporary ceasefire important? Because it is not about freezing the conflict. It is merely an attempt to initiate a fair path toward ending the war. It is also a step that clearly demonstrates who is genuinely interested in peace. Andriy Sybiha, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine, on Facebook.
Washington will pass the proposal for a 30-day ceasefire to Russia. However, a timeline for this is still uncertain. The US hopes that Moscow will agree to the ceasefire. The ball is truly in their court, said US Secretary of State Marco Rubio.
Ukraine is prepared to stop all battlefield activity and begin the immediate process of negotiating an enduring end to the war, and we'll see what their response is. If their response is yes, then we know we've made real progress and there's a real chance of peace. If their response is no, it will be highly unfortunate and it would make their intentions clear. Marco Rubio, US Secretary of State.
The Russian side is waiting for more detailed information from Washington, said Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov. However, according to Reuters, the Russian leader is unlikely to accept the US proposal.
From Moscow's perspective, the ceasefire proposal appears to be a trap. Putin would find it hard to agree to the ceasefire idea without hashing out terms and getting some sort of guarantees. Without guarantees, Russia's position could quickly weaken, allowing the West to accuse Russia of failing to end the war. From the Reuters publication.
If Russia rejects the ceasefire proposal, the United States will have only one option, writes The Telegraph, to intensify pressure on the Kremlin and provide Ukraine with even greater military support. Reported by Katerina Bastun, Valeria Nikipelova, UATV News.
Ukraine has been striving for peace from the very first second of the war, stated the President of Ukraine during a meeting of the European Council. The only reason the war continues is Russia, and Ukraine is ready to take the necessary steps for peace, emphasized the head of state. The first such step, according to Volodymyr Zelenskyy, is the need to ensure that Russia acknowledges the need to end the war.
This can be achieved through two types of ceasefire, which are easy to establish and control: the absence of attacks on energy and other civilian infrastructure, meaning a ceasefire regarding the use of missiles, bombs, and long-range drones; and the second, a ceasefire on water, meaning the cessation of military operations in the Black Sea. Volodymyr Zelenskyy, President of Ukraine, from a publication on the official website of the President of Ukraine.
The next step, according to the President of Ukraine, should be the establishment of basic trust. The foundation for this could be the release of prisoners. Any ceasefire is only the prologue to negotiations on establishing a comprehensive and just peace, emphasizes Volodymyr Zelenskyy. Furthermore, any negotiations regarding Ukraine's and Europe's security must involve both Kyiv and Brussels. To achieve long-term peace, Europe must be strong. The president is confident European troops repelling attacks. He welcomed the European Commission's initiative to rearm Europe.
Defense funds under this European plan must strengthen all parts of Europe, and I urge that a significant portion be allocated for weapons production in Ukraine. Our industrial capabilities are the fastest and most relevant, considering current security threats. Volodymyr Zelenskyy, President of Ukraine, from a publication on the official website of the President of Ukraine.
At the emergency summit of the European Council in Brussels, EU leaders discussed further support for Kyiv and the rearming of the European Union. To this end, they decided to raise an additional 800 billion euros. Part of the funds will be directed towards investments in Ukraine's defense industry. All EU members supported the decision except for Hungary.
What we're working on with the new instrument is to enable also our member states through the joint procurement to procure the necessary military capabilities that then can be given to Ukraine. Typical examples are a Danish initiative or the Czech initiative. So there are already established procedures to do that. But of course, with the backing now of 150 billion euros, where a certain share should go then as capabilities to Ukraine, this is also a big push forward to maintain the strength of this outstanding army.
Only a strong Europe can provide Kyiv with reliable security guarantees. Ukraine's partners are confident part of these guarantees should be a peacekeeping contingent that would ensure Russia fulfills the conditions of a future peace agreement.
Well, no, I wouldn't trust Putin, which is why I want a security guarantee. I wouldn't trust him not to come again because he's proven that he will come again. He's already done it. And we know what his ambitions are. But that is precisely why we need a guarantee to the deal. There's no point in a deal that falls apart after a number of months or years.
Europe must increase support for Ukraine until a peace agreement with security guarantees is reached, stated President of France Emmanuel Macron.
Nous devons continuer.
Peace cannot be achieved at any cost and under Russian diktat. Peace cannot be Ukraine's capitulation. It also cannot be put into a ceasefire mode, which would be too fragile. We have the experience of the past with such agreements.
The French president urged not to forget the failure of the Minsk agreements. The idea that first fire should cease and then negotiations for a full peace agreement should begin has failed twice, as noted by Foreign Affairs.
Minsk I in 2014 and Minsk II in 2015, both of which set out terms for a ceasefire and outlined steps toward a political resolution in the Donbass. These weak agreements were never properly implemented, and as Putin launched his 2022 invasion, he voided them outright. From a Foreign Affairs publication,
Russia repeatedly violated the terms of the agreements, reminded the president of Ukraine. In this way, the ceasefire agreements were violated by Moscow just 1 month after the signing of the Normandy Format Agreement.
Ми з ним домовились, що
we agreed that gas transit would continue in 2019. Secondly, we agreed on the exchange of all for all. For me, that was the most important. For them, it was gas. For me, it was people. And this is a fact because I wanted this humanitarian advantage so that there would be subsequent meetings leading to a sustainable peace. And third, a ceasefire. What happened? The gas contract was signed because it was necessary for them, and by the way, they knew all the details. As for the exchange, we made the first step and exchanged people. As for the ceasefire, they began killing us about a month later.
The U.S. is considering several strategies to force Russia to end its war against Ukraine, stated United States Special Envoy for Ukraine and Russia Kit Kellogg. One of these strategies is economic pressure. Donald Trump stated that he is considering imposing significant banking sanctions on Russia until a peace agreement is reached.
President Trump approaches diplomacy and engagements in a very transactional manner, with economics as the foundation and driving force behind international affairs in President Trump's America's first, quote, transactional diplomacy, end quote, model.
Volodymyr Zelenskyy announced that talks between U.S. and Ukrainian delegations will take place soon. The Ukrainian and American teams resumed work, and we hope to have a substantive meeting next week, the president of Ukraine wrote on X social network. Reported by Alexandra Zaslavets, Kristina Dombrovska, UATV News.